फिल्म छोड़ेगा? अला खुद को स्टार बोलता है, फ्लॉप पे फ्लॉप दे चुका है, अब एक और फ्लॉप घुसा दे।
It gives me a real pleasure to be joined by such a wonderful artist today, whom we've been connected for some time, and she has been honestly nailing it on the films and OTT space and had a wonderful stint on Indian television as well before she made this wonderful sort of transition. Mahima Makwana, a warm welcome to you and a huge congratulations on Showtime on DisneyPlus Hotstar.
Thank you. I'm so glad we are finally doing this. And thank you for such an amazing introduction. It's so encouraging, I must
You
say.
know, it's very interesting because I feel like your character Mahika actually, in a way, represents us, the journalists as well as the audiences, and even some sort of insiders who's on the periphery of not, on the periphery of the industry who kind of is still trying to break through as well. So, Mahima, there are so many different strands to your character, so many different perspectives.
Yeah.
How do you navigate these as an actor?
I think I connect so much with Mahika on so many levels because A, she's an aspiring filmmaker. She believes in making certain kind of films. And suddenly, over a day, over a couple of hours, her life changes and she's literally thrown into an unknown territory that probably she always wanted to be a part of. And when you're not used to decision making power and you're suddenly, you're like the women in the business, it does get intimidating because there are eyes on you, there are expectations, people don't take you seriously. And obviously there were so many facets to her character that probably I think Mahika made me more sensible, more sensitive, more wise because she gave me a perspective that I never really put any interest on until Showtime happened, which is the math, which is understanding how how Bollywood or entertainment industry is business. Because for me, the kind of school of thought that I come from, for me, it was all about telling stories, portraying beautiful characters, living in different fictitious worlds that probably was so fascinating and like so exciting. Now this is the actor in me, but I think with Mahika there was so much to explore, there was so much to dive deep into, and that was a challenging character, I must say, because you do look at her as somebody who's lost in her own world, finding, like, trying to find her feet, trying to prove herself, and suddenly she's got everything on a platter. So who is she now? Who is she? Is she the insider that we would probably want to root for, or we're constantly putting our eyes on her and dragging her down? So
Right.
yeah, I mean, it was uh, pretty much a complex, multi-dimensional character, that at least for me, that whatever I read, and it was really fascinating to be her.
Sure. And I think it's very fascinating that this series has come at a time when obviously you've had Arya on Disney Plus Hotstar before, you've had even Maharani on Sony Live, which again showcases an unassuming woman who basically is kind of catapulted into a world of authority, responsibility, power.
Hmm. Hmm.
What do you think has really contributed towards these storytellings? Do you think it's a coincidence, or do you think perhaps it's a way of showcasing feminism in a bit more of a vulnerable yet strong light as well?
I'm so glad that, I am a part of especially the OTT or the film world now, that we see stories around women, because I come from television and I do think that television is a women-centric, women-driven platform.
Mm.
But films weren't. Obviously there were less number of films made, and I hate the fact that we put films in a box. We categorize them in a way that, oh, this is a female-led film, or if this is a, we never call a um, commercial conventional film to be a male driven film. Like, it is what it is. And I think, with stories which are, I have to say it, with stories which are more female led or female centric, we see, because I think, women, I think, I can't say back in the day, but I think few years, at least to my knowledge, few years ago, they were, you would either want to see a bichari or you would want to see
Hmm.
a vamp. I think
Ah.
right now we're seeing them more as people. We're not we're humanizing women characters, and it's so encouraging, and it's such a beautiful time to be a part of the industry when there are, like you mentioned, there are projects like Arya or Maharani, or so many of them, Shifali ma'am's show on on Netflix. There's so many stories. I think we I I feel the fact that there are filmmakers and there are platforms which are ready to invest
Hmm.
money, or they're ready to talk about stories about a woman. It's really nice. I don't think it's a coincidence. It is a direction that we are moving into, which is great. And not only on OTT, even on films, I think we do have a long way to go. But yes, there are stories which are more female led, and we do see female in the gray area, whether they're being vulnerable or strong, or whether they're given power. Like, if because we I don't think we saw women with a decision making power, or them holding their own ground, because they were always under a male gaze or a male shadow. So it's so nice to, it's, I think somewhere it's also a reflection of our society on
Right.
some lines. But I also want to add to this. I want to see more stories where there are more vulnerable men. It'll be
Yeah,
so nice to see
I
that,
agree. Yeah.
like a story of a family man, or lion, like stories like these. It'll be so, or Gehraiyan for that matter. It'll be so nice to also see men. It's so rare to see a man breaking down. we don't
Hmm.
we don't see men emoting, right? So i
Hmm.
think i think it'll be nice to see the other side of the spectrum as well.
When you are an outsider, and I know this from first-hand experience because I've had friends who are actors and they have broken into the industry and now flourishing as well, who have been outsiders. Obviously their struggles have often we've discussed about. But I think what we've not discussed about is what necessarily keeps them like in depth about what keeps them motivated. Because I feel like it can be so disheartening sometimes when you don't get that
It
break. I mean,
is.
look at you. I mean, your journey is so inspiring. I mean, if you look at the trajectory you've had, and you've been a part of some really successful shows on Indian television. So what would you say has kept you motivated all these years to sustain yourself and to not give up? Because I think it's so easy that, people just feel so disheartened by it on the first instance.
Anuj, what people know about me right now is, they know that probably I've done an Antim, which is 2 years ago, or a Showtime, or a Tumse Na Ho Payega. But it's been good 13 years to my journey, and I have not given up. And I think self-belief and perseverance are two of my biggest enemies, as well as my biggest best of friends. There are
Hmm.
days where I wake up and I do feel like giving up on myself. It's natural and it's pretty human for anybody to feel that, because it takes a lot out of you. And
Hmm.
with social media, as long as we see a brighter side where there are more opportunities, and there are, like, people are, obviously we all know the brighter side of social media, but I think somewhere it also plays a lot with your mind. You wake up feeling insecure, you wake up feeling inferior, you wake up feeling that you're not good enough. But I think I think what helps me is to just get up and believe in myself, or just keep on with my routine, or just probably pray, or read, or like just probably reminding myself of where I came from and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So I think a lot of self-talk, a lot of self-belief, a lot of gratitude. And yeah, even after the transformation, transition, so to speak, I still feel like a beginner. I still feel like, this is my beginning. And I hold no qualms in it. It is slightly disheartening when people don't respect you, because you're either a newcomer, or you come from television. And I was not widely popular on television, and I'm aware. I never really did shows which were like, like doing great and they were doing like had the best of the numbers.
Hmm.
But I think with the kind of upbringing and with the kind of values I hold, it keeps me grounded. But yeah, I do have my days where I do feel demotivated, but I think constant self-talk and constant reminding of yourself of have why you're doing what you're doing and what is that one thing about this profession which you want to stick to. So I think the love for cinema is not enough. It takes a lot of um it takes for one. I mean, I feel one should really work on their mental peace, their mental health, or even just making sure that they take care of their sanity, because this profession can make you go cuckoo.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And again, I think here, because a lot of times I have seen actors who find, and I feel very sorry for them for what they've gone through, but a lot of them have gotten bitter over time, despite,
Yeah.
achieving such a big success, as
Mm.
artists and remarkable talents as well.
Mm. Mm.
Again, do you think it's this whole practicing of gratitude and spirituality perhaps playing a big impact in you not becoming bitter, or do you just feel that because you are starting out you still have that sense of hope within you?
It's very easy for one to feel bitter because you're constantly comparing your journeys to somebody else's who probably come from a privileged background and who get their their projects or everything on a platter. And you do question yourself on, okay, मेरे में मुझ में क्या कमी रह गई थी that I'm not getting what I deserve, or why do I have to audition, or maybe why do I have to give 500 auditions in order to crack that one project. But I think it does take time for one to accept and move on and take things with a pinch of salt. Because it's not an easy industry to be a part of. And one does it's very easy, because it's very easy for one to get bitter because you're constantly comparing yourself. And I feel with our generation, especially in today's age and time, there's a lot of, we're not happy. We're
Hmm.
aspiring to be happy, we're aspiring to achieve, we're wanting to, like, pata nahi, like, I do this. I'm digressing from the topic, but the other day I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I was telling him that our parents, or maybe a couple of generations before us, why are we so unhappy as people? Why are we so, like, why do we wake up and crib and cry, or like, we're constantly like, I feel our parents were, or maybe, like, people before our generation were so content with the little things that the small things were used to make us happy. And right now, everybody's in this rat race, and like, everybody's competing with each other. There are so many more insecurities. Obviously, there is a dialogue about mental health and insecurities, and people are, probably getting to talk about how they feel on the inside. But I think, with and I don't only blame social media, but I think it does play a huge role in playing with your mind, that you're unable to just be happy, and it's very easy to get bitter. I think one should just hold on to their close people, or things that genuinely make them happy. Probably it could be as simple as just taking care of your dog, or just watering your plants, or practicing your art, or going to a mandir, like, small things. I think
Hmm.
when you realize and हम जब life में बहुत आगे बढ़ जाते हैं, which is why when I speak to uh, somebody who's probably much ahead in their life in terms of age, for that matter, आखिर में सब यही बोलते हैं कि यार इस सब से कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. What matters is if you're actually happy from the inside. So one should just practice if you're able to sleep with a good heart. And I think as I'm growing up, I'm just 24. As I'm growing up, I'm understanding that peace over anything and everything. But yeah, coming back to the industry that we're a part of, it is difficult to achieve that, and take care of your
Right.
your mind. Yeah.
Dharmatic is such a huge banner, right? And obviously, like it's quite interesting how Karan Johar, for example, the EP of the show. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things said about him on social media. People have
Mm.
said a lot of
Yeah.
things about him.
Yeah.
But I think by
Mm.
him making this series, do you think it's kind of perhaps, do you think it can perhaps change perspectives, or perceptions a little bit? Because what people say on social media is not necessarily what the truth is, as we already know, especially in this industry. So do you think it can perhaps also have a bit of a positive change in that sense, where people are now likely to understand that beyond the whole outsider insider debate and the whole nepotism debate, there's actually a line of gray which people don't actually acknowledge as well?
As far as how people look at Karan Johar, or, I feel negativity on social media is very addictive. Even though one would want to focus on the positives, you do tend to only think of the negatives. And I feel me being a part of that show is the testimony of the fact that, yes, he is giving opportunities. I'm going to speak for myself. Yes, he did give me
So,
an opportunity, who headlines the show with the stalwart actors that we have, and I feel, yes, um, there are he has probably launched, some of the star kids, but at the same time he's provided opportunities to your newcomer directors, newcomer
mm,
writers. I've heard so many stories, because I was working, this is my first with Dharmatic, and I know, like, my directors, Mihir and Archit, for that matter, they don't come from a privileged background, but
mm,
this show gave them the opportunity to, to probably be a you know to probably be a part of such a huge scale. So I think, I'm not sure about the positive change, because he's really targeted all the time, for all sorts of, we've spoken about negative, nepotism, to him being unfair and all of that. But I think at the end of the day, he is a filmmaker and a businessman at the end of the day, and it's business. So I think decisions are taken based on the maths that he would probably know, better about. But yeah, I think I'm really grateful to them, because I have to tell you, Anuj, this
mm,
is something that I got to know much later, after, signing the show, that there were some star kids, and there were some established actors who were auditioned for Mahika, and everybody were keen on having them, because obviously, when a platform, or when certain that casting is not only done in terms of, not all, but most of the casting is done based on the brand that you hold, the popularity that you have, and the talent that you bring to the table. But I think my directors told me that, because they saw that they saw Mahika and me in the test that I gave, it was pretty much, my director said that it was pretty much a no-brainer for them to uh, give this opportunity to me. So yeah,
mm.
me being a part of this show is definitely a testimony of the fact that, yeah, there are opportunities. Probably they're less in numbers, but there are opportunities where you see, probably an outsider like me headlining a Dharmatic show, which
Mm,
is great, and I
absolutely.
see great sense of change in that. Yeah,
I mean, even in a film like Rocky or Rani, I mean, credits were due. I mean, so many wonderful
what a
actors.
great ensemble. Yeah,
Honestly,
Anjali Anand.
Anjali, Shitty Jog,
Yeah,
literally, it was
yeah, yeah, Shruti,
amazing.
yes.
So credits were absolutely due, and I agree with you. I think it's always, the grass always is greener on the other side, as they say. Like you
Hmm,
always have
hmm,
to basically live that life to sort of make a comment and to really understand things. But
hmm,
I think also what I really found fascinating on these 4 episodes as well, and I don't know if this played a huge part for you as an actor. I feel like as the costume design as well. Like for example, we
hmm,
saw you kind
hmm.
of wearing like I think it was what
Salwar
the
kameez,
salwar
salwar.
kameez, and then you end up sort of like changing your hairstyle and your costume. It becomes more of a boss type of costume where you're wearing suits and stuff like that,
Hmm,
more
hmm.
authoritative sort of a style. How does that necessarily, if at all, impact the way you portray a character?
It does make a huge amount of difference. See, when as an actor, when you're preparing for a character, there are two massive aspects to it. A is an emotional arc, and B is their physical world. Now, physical world consists of their body language, to the clothes that they wear, to the way, like for instance, when we look at a person before having a conversation, we're able to gauge an idea by who they are, or वो एक झलक पता चलती है उनके उनके कॉस्ट्यूम से, या उनके like, so I think costume and makeup, hair play an important role, and they're only they're instruments to probably make your character better. There are characters that have played which only help you elevate, or which help you feel it better when costumes are designed in a way. Like, I could feel Mahika when Mahika, the producer that she becomes, where probably when I was wearing a suit, it gives you, your walk changes, your the way probably you will nudge, the way you walk, the way you your body language, the way you're portray it does make a lot of difference, because the although you don't see Mahika, like, you don't see a lot of Mahika before she becomes the producer, but you could see her, her being slightly timid, naive, lost, her being probably with somebody with some sense of self-doubt, and that's how she looked from the outside also, as far as her costume designing was concerned. But as soon as she is this boss power play character that she becomes, her designing changes, and it only helps, as an actor. I think when you have a great team, we had Anaita styling for all of us, it only helps you probably get into the skin of your character. So I think in terms of music, or editing, or costumes and makeup and hair, these are some tools that we have which only help you get close to the world.
Right, absolutely. No, so true. Actually, Mahima, you began your television journey from a very young age. I think I mean, I don't know if
Yeah.
this is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think at the age of 10, you gave your first audition or something, or from a very, very young age, you began your career. I mean, in terms
Yeah.
of that team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like, because you've had to do this a lot in your life, do you think that it's compelled you to mature a lot quicker as well?
Of course, I fully agree. Like, a lot of people have come and told me that I sound way mature to my age than my age, because I think life happened to me much earlier. I didn't anticipate. I mean, no one really. I think जब चीजें हो जाती हैं, you're not really doing to prove any point, or be an inspiration. But I think at that point of time, you're just living your journey and trying to hold your own and be strong. And so I do realize that I am definitely more mature than my peers or my friends, because of the circumstances, or the everything that went down in my life, right from losing my parent at when I was born, to being the sole earning person of the family, to getting to understand I mean, I didn't even know the meaning of the word responsibility, and I was literally like practicing it, to taking care of your family, to doing everything on your own. So yeah, I do feel that I definitely am more mature than my age. And yeah, there is no regret. I hold a lot of pride, and I feel absolutely blessed and proud of the fact that we could do what we could do. And yeah, kudos to my mother as well for for supporting me, for being there, for being the biggest pillar in my life. And she's my inspiration. When I look at her, I'm like, being a woman in a society back in the day, where people, there was, you know how society, especially a widow, it takes a lot of strength for a woman to raise two children on her own. Not that she came from a great background, इतनी पढ़ाई भी नहीं करी थी. So I think most of my strength comes from her, and I do see a sense of maturity and responsibility, which I try to reflect in my characters as well.
And actually, I'm so glad you mentioned this. And I think, paternal support, parental support, maternal support, all of this is so important, I think, when you are pursuing a career like this, because there's so much that one goes through. It's not just, the emotional, mental side of it. There's a lot that goes into, pursuing the life within the entertainment industry, especially because of its cutthroat nature. I'm glad you mentioned about this because I feel like I don't know, maybe if this was intentional or maybe this was just because life just happened to you. But even if I look at some of your works that you did on television, they were not the
Mm-hmm.
conventional Saas Bahu dramas.
No.
They were not the वैम्प जब जहर मिलाती है खाने में और सबको वो सब कुछ करती है. It was none of
Uh,
that. In fact, you
mm,
actually did characters which were very much about a woman who again is pretty much like Mahika in a way, who's ambitious, who wants to be independent and live life on
mm,
her own terms. Do you think
mm.
because you've had such a living example of your mom at home, and kudos to Auntie, honestly, for everything, do you think that's had a big impact as well in the way you've perhaps approached work or maybe even chosen the roles that you auditioned for?
I was too young to figure out what kind of roles and what kind of scripts I should pick up. I think very soon in my career, right after Sapne Suhane Ladakpan Ke, which is my first show, I realized that I probably want to do something else because I was getting bored of myself. I was just getting bored as a performer. Having said that, I think there are 70% of the shows that probably I may not like as a viewer, but they're doing great. They're doing great for the platform, they're doing great for the masses, and at the end of the day, we're just catering to the audience. But I personally wanted to be a part of some stories which are slightly more liberating, slightly more not so regressive. During television, I used to really look up to Jennifer Winget. Her choices were fantastic, and I used to look up to her and I was like, I want to do something of, and I'm so glad that there were some producers and writers who came to me with some scripts. And, at that point of time, I was also not too young, or I was not even in the child actors bracket. I was somewhere stuck in between, which worked in my favor. Therefore, I could be part of stories like a Dil Ki Baatein Dili Jaane, where the a character who loses her mother to cancer, and then she becomes the breadwinner of the family, and everything that goes down. Then to Chakraview, where she is the brat. You don't see a girl being a brat on television. So I think that some choices were a coincidence, and some were, I don't know. I was very instinctive in television, and I was like, "Nahi, I want to do something which leaves a mark, which does something to me as a performer." And I'm so glad that my choices weren't conventional because I had so much fun. And like I used to go to the set thinking that what, I'm gonna kill this. I'm gonna like give it my all. And there's so much joy in performing characters that are so strong yet vulnerable. And yeah, I'm so proud of the things that I've done on television, although they may not have got the popularity that they deserved. But as a performer, it gives you, it gives you a certain sense of achievement, so to speak.
But they were well known. I mean, you were part of like Mariam Khan as well at one point as
Yeah,
well.
Mariam Khan. I was like a journalist on Mariam Khan.
Exactly. So again, it's so I don't necessarily think they were not popular. I mean, they were definitely very well known. I mean, even Sapne Suhane as well was also very well known. So
Yeah,
they weren't
Sapne Suhane,
exactly
yes.
unjan for sure. And I think again, do you know what? It's very fascinating with the casting of Showtime.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, yes.
honestly, we don't talk about it enough. Like, honestly, I was so impressed with the cast selection. Like, for example, Imran Hashmi. I mean, he's playing
Hmm.
your mama in the film. I mean, that is so bizarre. I never would have actually imagined that. But the fact that you're with such seasoned actors. Even if we take, I'm going to take Mouni Roy and Rajeev Khandelwal here, their names specifically here, because again, they've had that remarkable, inspiring journey from television,
Yeah.
and they've had such a wonderful, wonderful run at playing very unconventional roles, but very character driven and strong characters. So for you, I think when you're acting with them, number one, how do you not get intimidated by them? And at the same time, how do you actually learn from them as artists and learn from their journey with the way they've sustained themselves?
So let me start with the first part of your question. This might, you might get taken aback with my answer, but thanks to television and thanks to my years of whatever little experience that I've had, because I feel I've grown up acting and I've grown up being on a set, the opportunity or the responsibility of headlining a show was so much more intimidating than sharing screen space with the stalwart actors that you mentioned, because at that point of time I just wanted to give it all. I just wanted to give my best, and I just wanted to like make the most of, because it's not an everyday thing where you get to share screen space with a Naseeruddin Shah, Emraan Hashmi, Vijay Raz, Rajeev, Mouni, Shriya. So I was like, this is my moment and I
Mm.
have to make the most of it. So जब कैमरा रोल होता था, एक्शन और कट के बीच में मैं इंटिमिडेट नहीं होती थी, because I was playing my character. I was being Mahika, and at no point did there. And like, I also want to give credit to, because I had most of my intimidating kind of a scenes with Imran sir. He's so giving as a co-actor. He's so secure, and when you're working with somebody who's so giving and secure at the same time, um, they're not trying to, वो आपके scenes खाने के लिए wait नहीं कर रहे होते हैं, वो they're not trying to take your scene away from you. They're here to play the give and take. They're here to, like, I've scenes with him felt like we were playing chess, because वो अपनी बाजी खेलते थे, मैं अपनी बाजी खेलती थी. And when you have such a senior actor, and another thing, what I learned from Imran sir for that matter, that he's not taken his successes for granted. He used to be thorough with his lines. He's a professional actor. And what preparation, when I looked at him and I'm like, even at this age, this age or this stage in his career, if he's so if he's so prepped as an actor, then I mean, I was like, Mahima, pull up your socks, like this is just your beginning. So there was so much to learn from, because I wish and I hope that I got some time with all my co-actors, but we had so much to finish in limited schedule, that we didn't really get to like sit and have a conversation. Speaking of Nasir sir, I had a day of shoot with him. I'm telling you, the moment he walked on set, I was intimidated with his aura, and I broke down, because he's an institution of acting, right? Like, I feel I'm so lucky right now, and I still get goosebumps when I say it. I'm so lucky among those very few people who's getting to share screen space with a legend. Although you don't really see that scene, the first episode, because for whatever reasons they've chopped most of the scene. But I had a 5-pager scene with him, and I was intimidated. But जैसे ही उन्होंने एक्शन बोला, जैसे ही हमने रिहर्सल करी, everything just came everything just, I don't know, I was not being myself anymore, and I was fine. So I think I don't really get intimidated when I'm performing characters with with especially as far as Showtime was concerned. But there was so much to learn from them. Rajeev, when I read Rajeev sir's character, Arman, I was like, he's the most non-likable person. He's so arrogant, he's so shrewd, he's so full of himself. But the fact that he made his character so entertaining, so likable, so humorous, he
Charming
added
as
so
well.
much. Yeah, yeah, and he added so much life, and that's the beauty of such amazing actors. Even Imran sir, for that matter, like, I wanted to, as Mahika, I was getting angry at him, but as Mahima, I was like, how do you do it, man? Like, how do you pull off, and at the same time, maintain your swag and style as an actor? So there was so much to learn from them. And with Moni and Shriya, I didn't get to share screen time with them, but I think we should hope that in the next season.
No, definitely. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I think, one thing as well, Mahima, that I find very intriguing, but at the same time quite heartbreaking. And again, all this time in this interview, we've been speaking about gratitude and, understanding and working towards the bigger goal and all of that. But, अभी भी, ऐसा होता है कि एक one hit suddenly plummets you to another sort of level of superstardom, है ना? And
Yeah.
I think, for example, we've got leading examples in front of us, be it Mrunal, be it Tripti. Uh, do you know when it comes to something so fragile as that? Again, do you feel a sense of is there a sense of sort of agitation within artists that कि सिर्फ एक ही hit चाहिए जो सब कुछ कर देता है, and that could take you a lifetime of getting that hit? Or do you really just like to pace yourself? Because I do think sometimes one does, especially when you are almost there towards your end goal, it kind of becomes very difficult to kind of finish, go reach the finishing line. So how do you cope with all of that and understanding the fragility of things?
Like for instance, let's look at Tripti's journey when she did a Kala or when she did a Bulbul or Laila Majnu. A lot of people probably didn't see her. I mean, a lot of them saw her as a beautiful actor and somebody who's so good as a performer. But I think she only got her due, so to speak, after an animal. So,
Mm,
I feel, and I do understand where it's coming from because हमारी इंडस्ट्री भी कंटेंट के मामले में दो तीन कैटेगरीज में डिवाइड हो गई है ना आर्ट्सी सिनेमा इंडी सिनेमा कमर्शियल सिनेमा and then the actors are also put in a certain category as an actor I would want to be a part of all kinds of worlds. और मुझे ये सच में लगता है कि और मुझे भी ऐसा लगता है that probably it takes that one project or like that one character या फिर कभी किसी किसी की जर्नी आप ग्रेजुअल भी देखते हो like for instance I want to take another example Mrinal
mm.
loved her first project was Love Sonia and she was outstanding. I think she
So
was
good.
phenomenal, but it's still taking her so many projects to probably prove her talent or
Mm,
she is getting what I don't think she's still I think she got her due until Sita Ramam
Raman.
or
Mm,
or so मुझे सच में लगता है that आउटसाइडर्स के मामले में it does take one those that one project where the probably the industry connects or the audience connects and it does make you question your abilities in some sense or your choices but I think abhi ke liye I'm not thinking about where am I headed or in which direction should I, which path should I take? I think I'm just taking one day at a time. And I don't want to think about मुझे ज्यादा नहीं सोचना है. I want to enjoy myself being I want to enjoy playing characters and I want to enjoy telling some beautiful stories. But yeah, it does make you question a bunch of things, but I think I'm also not too well versed, especially with this world, the entertain because television or entertainment industry में बहुत फर्क है, and I'm still learning. Like I'm still trying to understand how these things work, and there are going to be probably some mistakes that I might make, as an actor, and I will only learn from it. But I think I'm just going to take it one day at a time, and probably make choices from whatever I've been offered. So इतना मैं इस चीज पर ध्यान फिलहाल at this point में नहीं लेना चाहूंगी because I feel it's pointless for me at this point.
right. I think the worst part is when people change around you, or depending on how famous.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Oh, I mean,
Talk to me about that.
there's so many people, yeah. I mean, and there are still many people because they don't like. I feel you've been one of those few people. We know each other since flesh,
Mm,
and you somewhere, and there are very few people who see the potential in you, and you're one of them. So I want to take a moment to appreciate that about you, and I'm so glad that we finally, you know, um, chatted. But yeah, I think it's just not. I don't know ये industry का uh, आप क्या कहो aspect हो या ये it's a human tendency. Everybody likes to salute the rising sun. You
Hmm.
know, and unless they see you being successful, unless they see you doing well, you don't really matter. It's only those few people who probably resonate with you for your upbringing, for the person that you are, or what I've realized, जैसे आपको लोग treat करते हैं has nothing to do with who you are. It only speaks about where they come from and how
True.
they look at people.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, fine, and I've seen people. I've dealt with disrespect. With I've dealt with instances where I know what I deserved, and probably somebody else who didn't deserve that in my lens is getting more importance or more attention. But that's just the nature of this industry. They're
Hmm.
fickle-minded people.
Hmm.
Having said that, but there are also few good people who would want to chat with you, not because of the projects that you're associated with, but because they see something in you. But I think it's disheartening to see some fickle-minded people, but you can't change them. You can't change them because at the end of the day, it's a society, or it's an industry which includes all sets of people, and you would only want to not ruffle any feathers, but only want to like coexist.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is disappointing, and it's time and work will speak for itself. But it does
Absolutely.
get frustrating, Anuj. I have to, like, for instance, I have been to award functions where people have probably not even spoken to me, and this is right after my debut, after Antim, or not given me the importance that I thought I deserve. But somebody who walks in with a certain brand or a certain family or from a certain background will get more
Traction.
attention.
Hmm.
But ठीक है यार, मतलब I feel the less, and see, there are things that you take too seriously, or you take to your heart, because आप खुद को question करने लगते हो. But I think with time I'm just realizing कि listen, it's not about you, it's just about how people look at people.
Hmm.
So I'm learning, but yeah, it is disappointing.
Bless you. But you know what? You do have a spark, Mahima. And I think, honestly, I think after Showtime, I think things are gonna drastically change for the good. I do believe that. Uh so I mean, talk to me a bit about the remainder episodes, because it is very frustrating that we've only got to see 4 episodes and I wanted to see the whole series.
Oh, I
Um
know, I
so,
know.
so talk to me about that, and then also what else can we look forward to? What is the grind looking like for you after this show?
Okay. So I think for now you saw everybody on pretty much. It was very frustrating for me also as a viewer, because just when I was getting to connect and like engage, and like finally when I was really like into the show and into the world, the show took a sensational stop, which does get frustrating. And I'm so glad you are. It only it only means that you're interested for part two to be out. I think we saw all the characters, be it Raghu, Mahika, Yasmin, and even Shriya's character on a very. I can't really say it's on a surface level, but now is when you probably get to dive deeper into their inner world and how everything gets complicated and complex. Like for instance, somebody like a Mahika who was so true to herself that she didn't even care about her job and gave the best or the worst review of her life, which got her into trouble. But right now, you might probably see her being more diplomatic or being more manipulative. She's becoming the person that she probably
Mm.
never wanted to, and it's the nature of the job, or the nature of the of the responsibility, which is making her, which is changing her inner core. So I
Mm.
think you'll be able to see her transition from somebody who was opinionated to honest, to now losing her honesty and her naivety,
Mm.
her innocence. Because what I also want to talk about is the fact that, in the first 4 episodes, you've seen her being confident or being all out there, but I don't think that's who she is. It's all a facade.
Mm.
And as far as Raghu is concerned, now that you see him being fully like, uh, um, broken, or he has nowhere to go. Even I feel you see a different side of him. So I think all these characters are, we're only going to see a different side of them, where probably their interpersonal relationships go haywire, or how they change as human beings. And yeah, there's a lot more to second half, which I wouldn't want to talk about. But I think I personally like the show when it becomes more emotional, or when there is more depth, or when there is more thera. And I think that's what season as in the second
The
release
main
offers.
episodes. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
And what's next for you as well, apart from Showtime?
I do have a film which I can't speak about, which should release this year, and I do start shooting for something again in some time. Can't talk about it too, but all I can promise is that um, yeah, there are a bunch of things that I'm reading, and should be filming in some time. And I just want to make sure that I do something which I do projects which excite me both as a performer, and it's a balance that I would want to create. I would want to explore and tap on both side of the worlds, which is both commercial and artsy. So yeah, I think I'm just going to take it as it comes. And at the end of the day, as an actor, you can only um, react to whatever you've been offered. But yeah, there are some exciting stories and characters that I can't wait to talk about. But yes, there is definitely something in the pipeline for sure.
Amazing, amazing. Well, look, Mahima, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
on.
you. Thank you. This was such a beautiful chat.
I think this has to be probably one of your most candid interviews yet, and I'm so
Yeah,
grateful that
of
you found
course.
me, capable enough to, really express and to really articulate. Because honestly, these are the sort of interviews that we absolutely love doing at Filme Shilmy. We literally champion candid with the capital C, and I think it really does mean a lot to see such a wonderful talent like you flourish and really,
Thank
break down
you.
the barriers. I think it's great.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.